Hello everyone, this hour on Verbling, the next in my great short stories series. Today we're going to start a new short story. This is Short Stories 14, The Happiest I've Been, a classic short story by the famed American author John Updike. This is a great short story, specifically if you're learning English, because it's got very good idiomatic vocabulary, and it's one of the great short stories of the 20th century because he's one of the great American short story writers. We'll be talking more about him in just a minute. First, a little bit about me. I'm Jon-Eric, your Verbling teacher for this hour, and I'm an American teacher from New York, hanging out from Lisbon, Portugal to bring you this class. Here are 3 quick rules to help you participate. Don't forget to turn off, tune in, and open up, which means please turn off your microphone when you're not speaking so we can keep the classroom nice and quiet. Also, tune in to the new words you learn when you are speaking. Please turn off your microphone. Please turn off your microphone. Also, tune in to the new words that you're learning. Use them as actively as you can so that I can correct you and you can learn. And finally, open up to your classmates. Just relax and have fun. We're all here to learn, and this is a safe and respectful place to practice your English. And that is all you need to know about me. Now, I want to know a little bit about you. While I'm saying hello, let me try to get my name back on screen. Something wasn't loading properly in the Hangout, which is why I had trouble signing in. Now it's working. Give me just a second, and I'll identify myself. Hold on a second. So, let's make sure that I know everyone, and then we'll get started. I am Verbling teacher Jon-Eric. Let me just get this back on screen. Nope. There we go. Now you can see me. So, we've got Yuki. Great. We've got Ishmael. Fantastic. Hyde. Wonderful. Carmen. Excellent. Alessia. And then let's see if there's some people I don't know. Wait a second. I see 2 Carmens. Uh-oh. That could be confusing. Let me see. Carmen, did you change your picture? Is that why you're different?
Yes, I changed my picture, okay. but we've got 2 Carmens.
Yes, but I can tell you apart. Carmen, what are you standing in front of in that picture? I can't see where you are. Are you in Greece?
Yeah, this is Athens.
Oh, okay.
Mm-hmm.
There you go.
Yeah.
And so you're Carmen Marco, right?
That's it.
Okay. And the other Carmen, I don't know your name. What's your last name?
Correa.
Correa. Carmen Correa. So CM and CC. Okay, we got that sorted. And Alex. Is that right, Alex?
Yeah, hi.
Hi, Alex. How are you?
I'm fine, thanks. And you?
I'm all right. Alex, I don't think I know you, or you changed your picture, one or the other.
No. Yeah, it's the first time I'm taking classes here.
Where are you from?
I'm from Spain.
From Spain. Where in Spain?
I live in Valencia.
From Valencia. Everyone's from Valencia. Carmen's from Valencia.
Yes, I'm from Valencia too.
Okay.
We're all from Valencia.
Yes.
Okay. For those of you, I don't think anyone was... Oh, Carmen. CC Carmen. You didn't have a chance to read the end of the story, The Ones Who Walk from Amulet, right?
Yeah, I missed it. Yeah.
Okay. All right. Well, I don't see anyone else from the class either, so we're not going to discuss it then. I mean, we can always schedule another class if you want to finish reading it. But I don't think anyone else was in the class from last week. So, here's the thing.
I have read the story Omelette.
Well, listen. Okay,
I like it very much.
Me too. It's great. Listen.
It's a great story.
So Yuki and Carmen, we could schedule another class so we have a chance to discuss it, and all of you now in this class, if you want to read short story 13 from Ursula Le Guin, the one we did last week, if you want to read it on your own, we could schedule a class where we have a chance to discuss it. Maybe today we'll start the new one, but I don't know, Saturday or next week or something like that, if you want to have a chance to read it, we could create a new class just for that. Or possibly Friday too. I have a hot topic chat class, but I could change it. So what I'll do is I'll send a link to everyone today, okay? Because we never had it, we read it, we didn't have a chance to talk about it, so I do want to give you a chance. So I'll send you a link to that, and maybe we could set up a discussion class in the future if you're interested. If I get 3 or 4 people interested, then I'll definitely schedule the class. Okay? So let's start the new one today. Sound good?
Mm-hmm.
All right. Everyone, you should have the link open, and what I'm going to do is just, sorry, could someone just put the link in the chat window? Maybe Yuki, if you could post the link in the chat window for those who don't have it. And while you're doing that, I'm going to quickly download a PDF so that I can share my screen and we can follow along on the PDF. And I think the best thing to do is to jump right into the reading, because this story is very subtle. What do I mean by subtle? Do you know what I mean? What does it mean to be subtle? I don't mean difficult.
It's like things.
Very tiny, very
Tiny what?
how to say, very
One word I could use is nuance. The story is very nuanced. The meaning is below the surface. Although there's plenty of details on the level of description, the meaning of those details is all sort of below the surface. It's not obvious. But because John Updike was born in the same place where I was born and grew up in the same place that I grew up, I understand a lot of the details that might not be obvious, actually. I can help you understand them. The language is not difficult. Really good idiomatic language. So what I'd like to do is, I'm not going to do any warm-up today. We can talk about his biography later, but I'd like just to jump into the story right from the beginning, and maybe I'll try to ask you some questions along the way to make you think about why he presents certain details. Maybe that's the best way to approach it. Oh, does that sound okay with everyone?
Mm-hmm.
Okay. All right. So Carmen, because I haven't seen you in Carmen CM, because I haven't seen you in so long, and I've missed you so much.
Okay.
I want you to begin on page 2 for us.
Okay then.
Do you want me to make it bigger, or?
Yeah, a little bit bigger, please.
Let me see if I can.
That's perfect now.
Hang on, let me just get it all on screen. I gotta make it a little bit smaller. Hold on. Maybe if I get it at 140. Yeah, okay. Okay, there we go.
Okay, The Happiest I've Been by Jon Updike. Neil Hovey came for me wearing a good suit. He parked his father's great Chrysler. How do you pronounce this kind of car brand?
Chrysler.
Chrysler. Okay. On the dirt.
Big American car. Big ugly American car. Chrysler.
Chrysler. Okay. On the dirt ramp by our van, and got out and stood by the open door in the double-breasted torn gabardine suit, his hands in his pockets, and his hair combed with water, squinting up at a lighting road an old hurricane had knocked crooked.
We can stop there for just a second.
Mm-hmm.
Can you picture this guy in your mind, Neil Hovey? Can you picture what he looks like?
Mm-hmm. John, how do you pronounce gabardine? Gabardine?
Gabardine.
Gabardine. Okay, thank you.
First of all, what is a double-breasted suit? Do you know what that means? Double-breasted.
It's like got double pads or something?
Front double button.
Right, that's it. Hyde is the one who knows all about textiles. Textiles and fashion. You're right. It's got double buttons. So it doesn't close in the front normally. It closes and it overlaps. So it's fancy. It's a little slightly fancy suit. Slightly more expensive maybe. And his hair is combed with water. So his hair looks kind of like, slicked back. What period of time do you think this is? Just based on the way he's dressed and the way he looks, Carmen. What period of time would you imagine this is?
I don't know, 60s, 50s. I don't know.
And you're right, it is. Late 50s, early 60s. And you can picture this giant, ugly American Chrysler, big gas-guzzling car, pulls up by the barn. Okay, and one more detail that's important. Squinting. When do we normally squint? If you look at what?
When you're gazing up at the sun.
Exactly. If you're looking at the sun, you'll squint so the light doesn't hurt your eyes. A lightning rod, an old hurricane, had knocked crooked. Okay, if it's a hurricane, that can only mean one thing. He's not in California. He's got to be on the East Coast because hurricanes go from Florida up to Maine on the Atlantic Ocean. So we already know that he's on the East Coast. Do you know what a lightning rod is? Does everyone know?
I don't know what it is.
A lightning rod is a big metal stick on top of a building or a house so that when the lightning comes, when there's a thunderstorm, the lightning doesn't burn down your house. It hits the metal rod and a wire sends it all the way to the ground.
Okay.
Right? Okay, so the reason I'm stopping here is just because you need to picture the images in the first couple of paragraphs. If you don't picture the images, you won't, and you don't pick up on some of the little details, it won't be clear where we are, when we are, and who we're talking about. All right? Well, let's keep going around the room, shall we? Hyde, why don't you take the second paragraph? We'll each get a chance to read.
Okay. We were driving to Chicago, so I had dressed in warm-out slacks and an outgrown corduroy shirt. But Neil was a friend had always been most relaxed with, so I wasn't very disturbed. My parents and I walked out from the house across a low stretch of lawn that was mostly mud after the thaw that had come on.
Yeah.
Thaw? It's okay?
Thaw.
After the thaw that had come on Christmas Day. And my grandmother, though I had kissed her goodbye inside the house, came out onto the porch, stooped, and rather angry looking, her head haloed by wild old woman's white hair, and a hand more severely afflicted by Parkinson's disease waggling at her breast in a worried way. It was growing dark, and my grandfather had gone to bed. Never trust a man who wears a red necktie and parts his hair in the middle, had been his final advice to me.
Right. What's wrong with people who wear red neckties? I don't know what's wrong with people who wear red neckties, but
I had presidential election. They are wearing a red tie.
Always.
Almost
very important.
Yeah, I had so.
It's very important. We used to call these power ties. When I was a kid in the early 80s, we used to call these power ties. You wore a tie to show people that you were, a corporate warrior. So the brighter the tie, the more powerful you were. I don't know. So there's some truth to that. Well, my advice to you is you need to picture these images. When I read this, I get the idea that John Updike is showing us a family photo. from his photo album in the beginning. Um, and and the photo is a little bit faded with time, and the colors are a little bit off the way an old photograph would be. That's the feeling that I get. But there's some visual images here. Even if you don't agree with me about that, there are still some images here that you need to pay attention to. For example, Hyde, you know what a halo is, don't you? Do you know what the word halo means? Because we say here, her white... Okay, does anyone know what a halo is? What do we normally think of?
It is
Tell me about it.
that song of Beyoncé. It means like a kind of something around your head, like signs and people like that. Is your spirit kind of, your essence or your soul kind of bright or shine.
Kind of ring of light.
Exactly, a ring of light. So Beyonce is very wise because she knows what a halo is. It's right. So in all those, religious, what do you call those, friezes or whatever?
Yeah, the icons of the virgins, for instance, they got a halo around the head.
Right. Okay, so here, the guy's talking about his grandmother. Is she a religious figure? Does she have a halo around her head for real? Not exactly. What's the halo around her head? What's he describing as a halo?
It's the white hair.
Right. It's her white hair. It's not just that it's her white hair, but it's also the time of day. What time of day do you think it is? If you had to guess, what time of day do you think it would be? It's not obvious, but if you had to make a guess, do you think it's morning, noon, night? What time of day do you think it is? Want to venture a guess?
In the late evening.
Late evening.
Because it says it's growing dark.
Exactly. So it's not just symbolism here. It is quite literal. The sun is setting, and it's the beginning of twilight. And in twilight, everything glows. So her white hair is glowing in the dark because of the twilights, right? So it's not just symbolism, but what it is an example of what I said earlier, nuance. He says a lot by describing kind of everyday details, mundane details, but in fact, they have a deeper meaning, I should say. Okay, so anything else I want to say about this paragraph? As long as you can kind of picture this, I think it really helps set the tone for the rest of the story. Slightly nostalgic, maybe. Okay, let's see. Anything else I want to say about this? That's it. By the way, if there's any questions, just ask. Oh, last thing. Grandmother and grandfather, they're saying goodbye, right? And she's a little worried. Right, her hand is waggling at her breast in a worried way. She's got Parkinson's, so she tends to shake when you have Parkinson's, right? Especially if it's more advanced. It was growing dark and my grandfather had gone to bed. And then it ends with this weird sentence. The grandfather told him, never trust a man who wears a red necktie and parts his hair down the middle. Can you picture, does anyone have a grandfather giving you advice when you go off to school? By the way, Sonny, never trust a man who parts his hair down the middle. What do you think his grandfather is really trying to say to him? If you could translate that into everyday English today, what's he really trying to say? Is it serious advice? What do you think?
Perhaps that's the thing that he told him when he was a boy going to school.
Yeah, maybe.
So he repeats it again.
Mm-hmm. And do you think it's kind of a joke? I think so too. I think what he's trying to say is, be careful of people, just be careful who you're talking to, especially if they're dressed well, if they're dressed too well, if their hair is too neatly combed. Be careful of appearances. Let me ask you something. Do you think that might have something to do with the story coming up? Or do you think it's just...
Definitely, because he's going somewhere. Seems like he's going to do something new, if he's into a trip or into a plan ahead.
Exactly. Right. So this is kind of advice that he's recalling, or his grandfather might have even have said it before he goes away, right? So we have to keep that in mind. If it wasn't important, it wouldn't be in the opening of the story. There must be some reason why we're seeing that now. Is anyone dressed well in the story so far? Yeah. Neil Hovey is wearing a double-breasted suit, and his hair is combed with water. His hair is slicked back. Kind of sounds like a guy who wears a red necktie and parts his hair in the middle. I wonder if there's a connection. I don't know. But anyway, something that we ought to keep in mind. All right, Ishmael, I'd like you to continue with the third paragraph. I'm not going to keep interrupting now. I just wanted to make sure that you see those details. But now we're going to pick up the pace a little. Go ahead, Ishmael. Are you ready?
We had expected Neil since mid-afternoon. 19, almost 20. I was a college sophomore, home on vacation. That fall, I had met in a fine arts course a girl I had fallen in love with, and she had invited me to the New Year's party her parents always gave, and to stay at her house a few nights. She lived in Chicago, and so did Neil now. Though he had gone to our high school, his father did something. Sell steel was my impression. A huge man opening a briefcase and saying, "The I-beams are very good this year." That required him to be always on.
Always on the move. Keep going, Ishmael.
I cannot see.
Oh, really?
Yes.
Uh-oh. You can't see the screen?
Yes. Now, always on the move. So that at about 13, Neil had been boarded with Miss Hovey's parents, the Lancasters. They had lived in Dinger since the town was incorporated. Indeed, old Jesse Lancaster, whose thick larynx whistled when he brayed to us boys his shocking and uproarious thoughts on the girls that walked past his porch all day long, had twice been Burgess. Neil's father meanwhile got a stationery job, but he let Neil stay to graduate. After the night he graduated, Neil drove throughout the next day to join his parents. From Chicago to this part of Pennsylvania was 17 hours. In the 20 months he had been gone, Neil had come east fairly often. He loved driving, and Ollinger was the one thing he had that was close to a childhood home. In Chicago, he was working in a garage and getting his overlapping teeth straightened by the army, so they could draft him. Korea was on. He had to go back, and I wanted to go, so it was a happy arrangement. "You are all dressed up," I accused him immediately.
Right. Ishmael, why does he accuse him? Think back to what his grandfather said. Is that clear? Why does he choose the word accuse him? What do you think?
John, I couldn't understand the paragraph exactly.
Okay, no problem. Let's figure out the details here. Okay? So, first of all, we're describing Neil. Did Neil have a normal upbringing? This is to all the class. Did Neil have a regular, normal upbringing? Let's establish the facts. Yes or no? Everyone, what do you think? Yeah, Neil. Neil Hovey, the guy that's being described here. Did he have a normal family life? Yes or no? Or I don't know. Yes, no, I'm not sure.
I don't know, but his father is maybe constructor, and he's proud on his job. So
Okay, but one difference here. Yeah, his father is in construction and is talking about his job, and we get the idea that no one really cares. The I-beams are great. Yeah, so what? And he's talking about things that people don't know about. But look at this. Neil had been boarded with Mrs. Hovey's parents. So that's Neil's mother's parents. So he lived with his grandparents. So he didn't have a normal upbringing. He lived with his grandparents, not his parents. And they had lived in this town. I think it's Dinger. I don't know if it's Dinger or Dinger, but I think it's Dinger. Since the town was created. And then it's got this line here. So Jesse Lancaster.
Dinger is the name of town?
Yeah, I think so. I think it's the name of the town. I'm not sure. It should be capital, but I think I have a typo in my text. I think it's I'm not 100% sure. Oh, no. It's a mistake. It should say Ollinger. I'm sorry. No, it's a typo. The name of the town is Ollinger. Sorry, that's a mistake.
What
Jesse Lang. No, it's a mistake. It should be Ollinger. The name of the town, Ollinger. Jesse Lancaster. Well, that's got to be his grandfather, right? His mother's father. Old Jesse Lancaster. What kind of person is old Jesse Lancaster from the description? Is he unusual in any way? Clear? Not clear? Any ideas?
Yeah, the thick larynx, the whistle every time.
Yeah, so first of all, he sounds a little weird. The larynx is your throat. His throat whistles when he breathes to us his shocking thoughts. What do you think his shocking thoughts are about, Carmen?
The girls.
Yeah, it is that kind of old man that pass comments and jokes about girls and.
Not just an old man, a dirty old man.
Yeah.
Jesse Lancaster's a pervert.
He's a pervert.
He's an old pervert that sits on his porch, the part in front of your house, and he says things about girls passing by. Look at them, right? So that's who Neil grew up with. Why did he live with his grandparents? I'm not really sure. I might have missed that, but I'm not sure it's clear. But he grew up with his grandparents, and he went to go visit his parents. Oh, maybe I didn't really understand. Maybe I missed it. But he went to go visit his parents after he graduated high school in Chicago, and now he came back, and he's going to pick up our narrator. He's going to pick him up and drive him to college, I guess, in Chicago. So we know a little bit about Neil, and my other question was, why does the narrator say, "You're all dressed up"? I accused him. You accuse people of a crime. So why does he say, "I accused him immediately of being dressed up"? We need to make a connection back to the first and second paragraph.
Yeah, but his grandfather warning that never trust a man.
Right.
Will run necktie.
So the accuse him is like maybe like it's probably a joke, but still, he's like, what's this guy up to? Maybe it's a joke. Maybe there's some truth to it, right? It's not that clear. But it definitely has something to do with his grandfather's idea there. All right, let's keep going. Shafar, want to pick it up? Maybe you can do the next three little paragraphs here.
Yes, thank you. I have been saying goodbye. The note of his was loose and
Wait,
the
necktie.
corners of his mouth were rubbed. Necktie.
Right.
Necktie was loose and the corner of his mouth were rubbed with pink. Years later, my mother recalled how the evening his breath to have stank so strongly of beer she was pregnant to let me go within. Your grandfather always thought his grandfather was very dubious character, she said then. My father and
Shafar,
Neil put
dubious.
my
Is that a good thing or a
suitcases
bad thing?
into yes.
Dubious. Good
Okay.
thing or bad thing?
Dubious.
If I say you're
Dubious.
Is that clear what that means? Dubious is a way to say doubtful. We have some doubts about his character. Right? And we know that because it was Jesse Lancaster. That's the guy that sat on the porch. Right? That's the guy that sat on the porch saying things about girls passing by. So there's something a little suspicious here. Maybe. We don't really know, but it sounds that way. Okay, keep going.
Yes. My father and Neil put my suitcases into the trunk. They contain all the clothes I had brought home for the girl and I were going to back to college on the train together, and I wouldn't see my home again until spring. Well, goodbye, boss, my mother said. I think you are both very brave. In regard to me, she meant the girl as much as the roads. Let me understand here. Thank you.
Why? I wonder why his mother says that. I think you're very brave. In regard to me, she meant the girl as much as the roads. I'm just curious. Does anyone have an opinion about that? What could she be warning him about with regard to the girl? I mean, I have my ideas. Does anyone want to venture a guess? Remember, so he met some girl that he said he's in love with, and this trip is about he's meeting her and getting on the train to go to college. I don't know where he's going to school, don't remember, but I guess he's got to meet her in Chicago to get the train, and his friend is driving him from Pennsylvania to Chicago, so it's a long trip, almost a full day in the car. Any ideas? What do you think his mother could be warning him about?
But I think he's going to spend some nights in the girl's house, so perhaps it's something connected with that. I don't know.
What's he warning him? What's she warning him about? No, I don't know. Maybe he doesn't have any experience with girls and doesn't know what he's getting into. I don't really know what the warning is, but we're gonna find out, I guess. Okay, Yuki, why don't you pick it up from Don't You Worry.
Okay. Don't you worry, Mr. Nordhall. Neil told her quickly. He'll be safer than it in his bed. I bet he
sleeps?
I bet he sleeps from here to Indiana. He looked at me with an irritating imitation of her own fond gaze. When they shook hands goodbye, it was with an equality established on the base of my helplessness. His being so slick startled me, but then you can have a friend for years and never see how he operates with adults.
Let me ask you something before you continue. Look at this line again here. You can have a friend for years and never see how he operates with adults. What do you think that means? It seems kind of an ominous description. What's your opinion about Neil so far, Yuki, from what we've heard about him? What's your opinion about Neil?
Neil think that relationship of this and a relationship with the girl will be good. So don't worry about it. No.
That's true, but what do we think about you and me? What do we think about Neil? What do we think about him? What do you think about Neil so far? The reason I'm asking is because of that last line. You can have a friend for years and never see how he operates with adults. I mean, there's two things that come to my mind. One, this is a kid who, for the first time, sees his friend in a new light, number one. And number two, operates? Do people operate with adults? That seems a little bit unusual, doesn't it? Operates with adults. Does Neil seem like a genuine person to you, Yuki? Does he seem dubious to you in any way? Or does he seem okay?
No, I think he's not dubious about the future.
Not dubious about the future, but dubious is our narrator, dubious about Neil. Or you're not sure?
I'm not sure.
Well, here's what I would say. Look, Neil and the guy's mother look at each other with a kind of understanding. When they shook hands goodbye, it was with an equality established on the basis of my helplessness. It's as if he and the mother have an understanding between each other, and they are somehow superior to the narrator, right? Let's call the narrator John, because it sounds like John Updike's writing about himself. Let's call him John. I don't know what his name is. I don't think we ever know his name, but let's call him John. John. So Neil seems to have a little bit of, he seems to be a bit of an operator, not being genuine. Operator is someone who's not being him or herself. I don't know if this is a bad thing or not, but it seems interesting that he says never sees how he operates with adults. Okay, it might not be as dubious as it seems. It could just mean that these are kids, and for the very first time, he saw his friend with adults and realized that his behavior was different. It could just be that. Or it could be that there's something dubious about Neil because there was something dubious about his grandfather. And he dresses too well, and his hair is slicked back, and maybe he's hiding something. And years later, the mother says, "Oh, you know that night when you went off to college? Well, your friend was so drunk." I didn't say anything, but your friend was so drunk I wasn't even going to let you go. So it just seems like there's a lot of details here. They must be there for a reason. That's all I'm saying. There must be a reason. Well, look, yeah,
John,
go for it.
I think. Sorry, I just wanted to mention the fact that it seems like Neil is more experienced than the main character. That's all.
I'm going to call him John.
John.
I'm going to call him John. I don't know what his name is, but he sounds like John Updike to me. So Neil seems more experienced, right? Now that's a very good point, Carmen, because maybe Neil is not so dubious after all. Maybe it's just that John, our narrator, maybe he's just less experienced and therefore doesn't know what to think about the behavior, right? Maybe he's just not used to someone who's more experienced. That could be a good point. Maybe that's it. Well, listen, I want to give everyone a chance to read, so before we run out of time, let's go to Alessia, and then Alex, we'll get to you at the end, okay? Sorry to cut people short a little bit, but I want to try to give everyone a chance to read at least one paragraph. These are not equally distributed. Can you see where we are, Alessia? We started down?
Yeah, but I missed the line. Sorry. Because I am a Google Drive.
You can read it on the screen
We
too.
started down the half mile of dirt road to the highway that one way went through Ollinger to the city of Alton, and the other way led through farmland to the turnpike.
By the way, the turnpike means highway.
Okay.
But in Pennsylvania, they call it turnpike. I know that because I was born there. Otherwise, they don't call it that in other places. Turnpike means there's a little barrier, and when you pay the money on the highway, they open the barrier. So they turn the pike or something like that. Yeah, it's like a paid highway, right?
Okay. It was luxurious after the stress of farewell to two-finger a cigarette out of the pack in my shirt pocket. My family knew I smoked, but I didn't do in front of them. Were we all to see? Were we all to?
Were.
Where?
We were all.
Were all too sensitive to bear the awkwardness.
Listen to me. Awkwardness. Awkwardness.
Awkwardness.
There you go.
Awkwardness. I lit my and held the match for Neil. It was a relaxed friendship. We were about the same height and had the same degree of athletic incompetence and the same curious lack of whatever it was the aroused loyalty.
Loyalty?
And compliance in a beautiful girls. But it seemed to me the most important thing about both our friendship and our failure to become.
Failures to become. So it's not the end of the sentence. There's a comma, so it's not the end of the sentence. He's going to add more information, so your voice should not drop, should stay the same, right? But it seemed to me the most important thing about both our friendship and our failures to become, for all the love we felt for women, actual lovers. So these are some pretty inexperienced guys. I think that's what they're trying to say here. Keep going.
Okay. For all the love we felt for women, actual lovers, was that the end I lived with the grandparents. We improved both our backwards and forwards vistas. What is vistas?
Vistas is your point of view. Vista.
Okay. Yeah. Okay. We knew about the besides commodes and
wait. Bedside commodes.
Bedside commodes and midnight cooking. Coughing. Fits.
No, not coughing. Listen. Wait. Coughing.
Coughing
is coughing.
Okay. Coughing fits that awaited most men, and we had the sense of childhood before 1900. When the farmer ruled the land of America faced west.
Wait. When the farmers ruled the land and America faced west.
Okay. When the
in other words, the land, in other words, they knew something about recent history.
Okay.
So 50 years ago, 50 years ago, we were still exploring the West, right? Or maybe more than 50 years ago. Okay, maybe 100 years ago, because this is 1960, I guess. So they're thinking back, okay, when America faced west, when we were still discovering the frontier of America. So they knew something about that. They knew something about growing up, about how people get old people coughing. They have to have a toilet next to their bed, a bedside commode. I guess that's what that is. So we know how people end up, and we know a bit about history. But other than that, they're kind of inexperienced. That's what all these details are talking about. Sounds like they're kind of inexperienced. They're young. But they have a vision of what it's like to get old, and it's not that pleasant. Keep going.
we had gained a dimension that made us gentle and humorous among peers, but different and dense.
Diffident.
Different and dense, and he sang hesitance in cars. Girls hate boys stopped. They amount to insults. Gentleness, if for married woman to appreciate. This is my thinking down. A girl who has received out of nowhere now here a gift worth all Africans, ivory, and Asia's golds once more that just a good guy to bestow it on.
So the narrator is not coming out clearly and saying what he wants to say here, but we can piece it together. Does this guy have any experience with girls based on what you read? Is he a new Casanova?
I don't know, but I think the last line, the sense could be that if a girl have something beautiful, then she wants too much another something, maybe.
Not exactly. I mean, I think what he means here is, okay, a girl who has received a gift out of nowhere that's very, very valuable wants more than just a good guy to bestow it on. It's kind of a weird sentence, but I think what he's saying here is this. First of all, go back to that line. We're humorous, but diffident at dances and hesitant in cars. This is the 1950s and 60s. People didn't just get into cars to drive around. They got into cars because that was the only place they could be alone with the opposite sex. Right? So he says he's hesitant in cars. To me, that means he's afraid of women. He's too inexperienced. He doesn't know what to do. He's got no confidence.
Okay.
So, and about these gifts of ivory and gold, I kind of think that he's talking more about his good qualities. Him and Neil, they share this quality that they seem to be inexperienced. Okay, they're able to make people laugh, right? Because they have this, they're gentle and humorous, they can make people laugh, but they don't have any confidence. So they have no luck with women, or no luck with girls. They're quite young. I mean, that's one thing that comes to mind. And also this other thing. Only when he leaves, when they drive off in the car, does he take out a cigarette, right? Even though the family knows he smokes.
No.
They all, the family.
No. The family know that he smokes, but he never smoke in front of him. Them.
Right. So there's unspoken rules in his family. In fact, the whole story is about unspoken rules, it seems like. There's all this unspoken things. There's a lot of description. People don't necessarily can't come out and say what they're really saying. So in two examples here, with the family, there's unspoken rules. We know you smoke, but we don't say anything about it, and you don't do it in front of us. And also, they know that the guy is drunk. Neil is drunk, but they don't say anything until years later. And also, maybe the second part about the detail about him and there's a recognition about him and Neil and women or girls. Not something that they talk about, but he recognizes it. I don't know. So there's kind of interior life, and then there's what you say to other people. That seems to be significant. Well, we're basically out of time, but let's just finish. I didn't give Alex a chance to read. So, Alex, let's just finish up this page. Sorry to get to you at the end, but why don't you finish it up for us?
Okay.
And then we'll continue on Thursday, but take it to the bottom here.
Okay. Coming onto the highway, Neil turned right toward
Ollinger.
Ollinger instead of left toward the turnpike. My reaction was to twist and assure myself through the rear window that, though a pink triangle of sandstone stared through the bare treetops, nobody at my house could possibly see.
So, possibly see what, Alex? No one could see what? What's he doing in the car?
He's smoking.
Yeah, he's just double checking that no one saw him smoking because he's paranoid. Okay, keep going.
Okay. When he was again in third year, Neil asked, "Are you in a hurry?" "No, not especially. Schumann's having his New Year's party 2 days early, so we can go. I thought we'd go for a couple hours and miss the Friday night stuff on the bike." His mouth moved and closed carefully over the dull, silver, painful braces. "Sure," I said, "I don't care." In everything that followed there was this sensation of my being picked up and carried.
Right, being picked up and carried. So, here's our first big change in the story. Are they going to Chicago like he thought? Or did the plan change?
I don't know.
Well, look at this line here, the one that you read that says, Neil turned right towards Ollinger instead of left to the turnpike. The turnpike is the highway. So they're not getting on the highway to go to Chicago. They turn to the little town of Ollinger. So there's a change in plans that he wasn't expecting. Just like before, he accuses him of being dressed up. Well, wait a second. Maybe he's dressed up for a reason. Maybe Neil has a different plan entirely, and he didn't tell him. And then, what is the plan? Where are they going, Alex?
They are going to a party.
Exactly.
New Year's party.
So let's get this straight. Neil shows up at the guy's house to pick him up, to drive him back to Chicago, where he's going to get on a train with his girlfriend or something. But he shows up and he's dressed up in a double-breasted suit, fancy suit. His hair is slicked back, and he's drunk. Nothing is the way it's supposed to be. But he doesn't figure that out until they're already driving, and suddenly they go into a totally different direction than they're supposed to go. So nothing is exactly the way it's supposed to be. But our narrator, the guy I'm calling John, is pretty relaxed. Are you in a hurry? Nah, not especially. So here's what I want you to do. We have to stop. On Thursday, we're going to continue. But here's what I want you to do. I want you to read the rest of the story on your own as best you can. And what we're going to do on Thursday is we're going to talk about the story. I'm going to ask you some questions. We're going to decide what it means. We're only going to read important sections of the story. So it would be good if you could try to read the rest of it on your own so that you have a sense of what's going on. Bring your questions to me. And I'm going to have us read just certain sections that I think are really important in the story. So in the beginning, we'll read a few excerpts. And then in the second half of class, we're going to try to figure out what John Updike is trying to tell us. What is the pivotal moment in the life of these characters? And how does it relate to us? Why should we care about them? Is there something universal about what they're going through? And it's all in, I think, the characters and in what is not spoken in the story. All of the nuance of the story. Okay? So read it, bring your questions to me. I will highlight some important sections, some excerpts that we should read, and we'll discuss it in the second half of class on Thursday. Sound like a deal?
Okay.
Are we good?
Yeah.
Okay.
We're cool, everyone? All right. So let's stop there. I'll be back in about a minute and a half to start the business class, and we are completing our unit on performance, job performance, and appraisals. Okay, I'll be back in a minute for that. If I don't see you then, I hope to see you Thursday for the second half of John Updike's story, great short story, The Happiest I've Been. By the way, if you don't know the answer, the question is, what is the happiest he's ever been? That's the question you've got to read for. So try to figure that out when you're reading on your own. Bye for now. See you in a few minutes.
Thank you.
Bye.
Bye.
Have a nice day all. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.